That's a good start. So thank you again, Pascal, for introducing me. I will talk about the power of mantra practice today. And really, it's a big pleasure for me to do that because through my own mantra practice and also through my engagement in sound therapy, I just became more and more aware how powerful sound and vibration for our healing process is, and also for our spiritual and personal growth. So I want to start very simple. What is sound? So sound is a vibration which is transmitted through air or liquids, and it can be audible to us, so we can hear it, but there's also sound we cannot hear. Sound which is below our ability to hear is called infrasound, and there's also ultrasound above our hearing abilities. And our hearing goes from 20 to 20,000 hertz, and hertz is the cycles per second. And you can see that here on the right side, on the top, that's one cycle. So if a frequency goes, if the energy goes, up, down, and it comes to the beginning point again, that's one cycle. And if that takes 1 second, then the frequency is called, it's 1 hertz. And if the vibration, the frequency, the sound wave makes 4 cycles in 1 second, that would be 4 hertz, and so on. So we are able to hear sound, but we can also feel sound, which you may have heard when, I don't know, yesterday I was at the gas station and I was like, what's that? You can feel the vibration in your whole body when someone has a loud sound, loud music on in his car. So you hear it, but you can also feel it. And we are really built to perceive and receive sound and vibration. Animals, in contrast, very a little. Elephants are similar with us in that sense. Others are cats and dogs. Maybe some of you have a dog whistle. So if you use that and it's a very high tone, high frequency, you may hardly hear it, but your dog is hopefully getting very alert when you use it. Superheroes are bats or, for example, whales. Whales can hear from 1,000 to 123,000 hertz. So sound has a different impact, and it also triggers emotional response, and that is used within movies. So if you turn off the sound while you watch a scary movie, all of a sudden it's not gonna be that scary anymore, and you wonder why this chainsaw is such a big deal. If you turn on the music, you can really feel this impact. And maybe someone, if you are, in a certain mood, or you want to get into a certain mood, you may use a specific rhythm, a specific music, and put that on, support your emotion. Frequencies, so sound is also used in sound therapy, and sound therapy has a relative long history in really cultures throughout the world. And the frequency which are used for sound healing traditionally are frequencies which are also found in nature. And one of those frequencies, or sequence of frequencies which are used, are part of the Fibonacci sequence. You may have heard of that before. That's where the golden ratio for art comes from. That's how nature is thriving, and it's really it's a fundamental frequency sequence in nature and also within us. Scientists have found that in our neurons, they're microtubuli, and they are actually firing in this Fibonacci sequence. And if you see the screen, the PowerPoint, on the right side, this is depicted. It's getting potentially bigger. So the sequence is 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on. And you produce that by adding the two numbers together, and that will summarize to the next one. So 1 and 1 is 2, 1 and 2 is 3, 2 and 3 is 5, and so on. And you can find that, as I said, in nature, you can see the shell, grows in that sequence. A lot of plants grow in that sequence, so that from one leaf to the next, it follows this Fibonacci sequence. And in sound therapy, or what's really kind of fascinating for me, because I want to show you this Fibonacci frequency and how the sounds actually looks like. And sound, if you make it depictable, you may have seen something like this here, where just the amplitude variation is shown. But sound is really vibration, and the frequencies in nature are really something very much alive. And someone who first helped us to see that is Dr. Hans Jenny. He was in Switzerland. He developed what later was called cymatics. And cymatic help us intuitively understand energy fields, which are produced by frequencies. So what he did is he put a sand on a plate, and underneath he put the oscillator on it. So he applied a specific frequency. And what happened is not that the sand just jumped up and made a random dance. No, it formed specific geometric patterns which are specific for each frequency. So on the right side here, you just see a very simple pattern, but it can be much more exciting. For example, when you use the Fibonacci sequence. So after using sand, people now use water and light to make these complex frequencies visible. And what you will see in a second is a video where the sound of a tuning fork was made depictable with such technique. So there's nothing added, it's really just the frequency. I'll go now to the frequency. So that's 89 Hertz. That's also part of the Fibonacci sequence. So it's a part of nature, so to say. So there's
89 Hertz, gradually increasing amplitude.
They're just gradually increasing the amplitude of 89 Hertz. And so for me, when I saw this first, I thought, oh, that's science fiction. And for me, it's really fascinating, because we can kind of get the feeling like what vibration is, and really thinking about that vibration, Om, is really the very first and most subtle thing of creation. So I give you another similar example, that's 144 hertz. Sorry, something just turned on in the background. All right, so that's 144 hertz. So those are the frequency which we also have inherent and which can be used to restore harmony within our body and mind. And so, all right. So for me, this is really fascinating that frequencies are so much more, that they may seem, and they have such a complexity and high density of information in it, and we can see that when we make it depictable like that. So another frequency which is used in sound therapy is the Schumann resonance, and that's 7.83 hertz. It's kind of called the heartbeat of the planet. And it's also, it's actually essential for us to stay healthy. It's because we are really attuned to our planet here where we live. And on the right side, you see again the depiction of this frequency. And it looks like science fiction, but it's actually the frequency, and the only thing which was added is color. So I already said that we too have these frequencies and vibrations in us, and we are actually vibrational in nature. So what is really the nature of our body and mind? And Albert Einstein, he put it that way: we are slowed down sound and light waves, a walking bundle of frequencies tuned to the cosmos. And Max Planck, physicist, upon accepting the Nobel Prize in 1918, said, "We have now discovered that there is no such thing as matter. It is all just different rates of vibration designed by an unseen intelligence." So what quantum physics found out is really that we are nothing at our core. Of course, we are units of the infinite, but our body, mind, and in that aspect, we are vibrating energy. So you could, what they found, quantum physics, actually, they went always smaller and smaller. Like first, the atom was the, unbreakable, the one thing which matter is made of, but then they looked into the atom and found electrons, protons, neutrons, and so on. And then, so the smaller you go, and eventually what you just find is nothing, not a little stone, not a little thing. What you really find is energy vortices, spinning little mini tornadoes. And that's really what we are made of, because these mini tornadoes form the atoms, atoms form molecules, molecules form our cells, and the cells forming us. So when you could say, well, but I can see you. So yes, you can see me, but what you really see is my energy, reflecting light photons. So it's a reflection from the energy force that my energy field is building. And then you could say, well, but I can feel my body. So yeah, you can feel your body, but it's still energy. It's the energy force. It's the force of the energy field, what you can actually feel. And the different frequencies and the different energy intensities make something softer or harder. And you can think of it like when you, let's say you're driving through on a street, and in front of you is a tornado. So what would happen if you try to drive through this tornado? Would it be possible? It would be like hitting a stone wall. But that's just because of the energy force it produces. And you can say, yes, you can see it too, but what you really see is just the dirt and dust which it picked up. Otherwise, if you would filter the dirt and dust out of a tornado, you wouldn't see it, but the energy would be still there, and you couldn't drive through it. So this is just to help you a little bit with this idea, which I think is rather difficult to grasp, that we are really vibrational beings, and because we are vibration and energy in our in our nature, we are also we're able to get in resonance with something. We can attune to something, and we do so, for example, when we do our mantra practice. Here is another example of depiction of sounds. This is the sound of a cell, a healthy cell. And like I said, it's really about being in harmony. If we are in harmony, we are healthy, energy flow is going well. On the other side, symptoms are a sign of dissonance in the system that causes restriction in the energy flow and the disbalance to the system. So on an energy level, when there is dissonance, when the energy flow is not the way it's supposed to be, when it's blocked or restricted, then there is a disbalance in the system, and that can eventually lead to disease and distress, mentally and physically. And for that, here is an example for that. On the right side, that's the sound of a cancer cell. And it's, yeah, I don't have to say a lot about that. You can really see that the harmony is restricted. So in that sense, Coolidge Chaudhary said, and she is an Ayurvedic practitioner, a yogini, and also a cardiologist. She says, when we are ill, the body's natural order of frequencies is altered. But when we are exposed to certain external vibrations in sound, our rhythm can be restored. So with sound vibration, with our mantra practice, we can promote health of body and mind. We can support our meditation and spiritual growth. And we can actually connect by attuning to the infinite or aspects of it. And there's also a mantra therapy, which David Frawley explains as that mantras can be used to direct higher prana, so the healing energy, to wherever it is needed. And in the general, it's enough to just expose our body to healing vibrations. For example, when we repeat aloud or inwardly our mantra, because those harmonic and healing vibrations then permeate our whole being. And wherever there is dissonance, disbalance, it will shift into harmony. So mantra practice is one of the most well-known and a fundamental meditation technique. Probably every meditator knows. One of the best known mantra is Om. Then there are others which were taught by Roy Eugene Davis. for example, Hong So or So Hum, which basically have the meaning that I am he, or he, it, or I am it, or it is me. So it's kind of enhancing the it's affirming that we are a unit of the infinite, that we and the infinite are really identical. And then there are other bija mantras, seed mantras, for example, for each chakra and so on. There are other fundamental techniques which you probably all know, are concentrating on the breath, pranayamas, being the observer, and so on. And in 2012, there was a national health interview survey, and they asked, among other things, who is meditating and who is doing mantra meditation. And they found that 1.6% of the population in the USA are using mantra meditation. So that's 3.6 million people. And about 12% of the population in 2012 was engaging in meditation in general. And out of them, about 70% really were consistently using meditation longer than 1 or 2 years. And up to now, it's maybe roughly about 15% of the USA population who have ever engaged in meditation practice. The typical practitioner back in 2012 was a female, non-Hispanic, white, college educated and physically active. And the reasons why people would engage in meditation was, for 70% of the people, wellness and prevention. So they wanted to be less stressed and promote emotional well-being. And about 30% of the people, they wanted to treat a specific health condition with it. So mantra is simply a word or word phrase repeated inwardly or aloud. And Roy Eugene Davis says that from Sanskrit, manas means mind and tra means to protect. He continues that word, that mantra is a word or word phrase or a sound used to focus attention when meditating. So when we use mantra practice, we simply are in our meditation position as always, and then we repeat the mantra inwardly or aloud. For example, just repeating Om, 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 and that usually silently. There are different possibilities what to use as a mantra. We can just simply use a positive word or word phrase like God, peace, love, joy, and so on. It is important that we feel comfortable with it, that we resonate with it. And sometimes it's also worth to really try things out, because sometimes you think, yeah, that's a really good one, but then it doesn't really work for you. For example, I had a client, she tried, I think, calm or calmness, but it actually made her a little nervous. So then she used love, and that really worked well for her. So sometimes it's really good to try things out and see what really helps you best. And then, as mentioned before, there are Sanskrit mantras. And in Sanskrit, it is believed that the vibration really equals the creational process of it. So really the meaning kind of produces that in a way. And Roy Eugene Davis writes that Sanskrit mantras have an added beneficial influence of the energy frequencies of their sounds, which is a calming and enlivening one. And so Om is the prime mantra which attunes us with our true nature and higher reality. It reflects both manifest and unmanifest infinite that is sustaining the vibration of all creation. And it has three parts to it. A, which stands for creation, U for sustenance, and M for dissolution. But it is, as you know, pronounced as one word, Om. Using Om as a mantra opens and clears the mind for meditation, and it enhances ascension and expansion of energy. It harmonizes us with the forces of the universe, externally and internally. And according to David Frawley, it brings deep healing into the subconsciousness to remove negative emotions, addictions, and compulsions. So when we think of mental patterns also as vibrations, this makes sense, because if we bring harmony to our mind, there's a possibility, to overcome these mental and behavioral patterns as well. So what is the effect of mantra practice? There are several scientific studies, although I have to say that studies which are really concentrating on mantra practice only are relatively rare. So it's a relatively small field in the large field of science. But what people found out, that it's actually, like our Eugene Davis pointed out, it's good and helpful for our focus, and it actually trains attention, just simply because we are our mind is focused on just one thing only, and we are training that for a certain amount of time. There have been 2 dissertations in the 80s which wanted to find out whether meditation practice is helpful for kids with ADHD, so with attention deficit hyperarousal disorder. And they found out a beneficial effect of meditation training, so that was mantra practice in this case, and it was it lowered the impulsivity of the kids, and also decreased the distractibility of them. And compared to conventional drug therapy and behavioral therapy, meditation training was as powerful. So mantra practice was as powerful, and it even was better in the sense that it improved the classroom behavior of the group which was trained in mantra practice. There have also been brain imaging studies with fMRI, and they found kind of an interesting effect. It was all of a sudden when people engaged in just repeating a word, and those were non-meditators, it deactivated the cortex, so our thinking. But then they looked closer, and what was really deactivated was the default mode network. And this is a network in our brain. When that is active, we are kind of in autopilot, auto mode. So that's when we do something but are not really aware of it. Like we drive, and then all of a sudden, we start thinking about things, and our mind goes there and there, and then and all of a sudden, it's like, oh, this is this exit, and now you become aware that you're actually driving a car. So your default mode network was driving the car. So it's when we kind of a little bit offline, and when people engaged in mantra practice, but that was, as said, just a simple word, and repeated that inwardly. This network, which is kind of autopilot, decreased. So they kind of became more aware. What was very interesting is that usually if people, you have this effect when people engage in cognitive tasks. So if you have to calculate something, then of course the autopilot goes down, you're more cognitive aware and you can do your maths. But that was not the case. So the only thing which really happened is this, the autopilot activation decreased, so kind of becoming more aware state without the activation of something in particular. And that was also confirmed in another study. On the behaviorally, people reported a significant reduction of the intrinsic thought processes. And that really confirmed on a physical brain activation level what we have known and what was long established, that mantra practice has this psychological calming effect. And that this autopilot network is kind of slowed down, we are more aware. This also supports other results which are found due to mantra practice, such as that it relieves from post-traumatic stress symptoms, it helps with insomnia and hyperarousal. And like for hyperarousal or post-traumatic stress symptoms, it's really that some stimuli trigger us, but the triggers, especially when we are not aware, when we are not conscious. And in autopilot, we don't have this awareness and this consciousness, so they just hit us and then we react and are triggered. So with mantra practice, we kind of equal that out through this awareness state we are in. All these other triggers, they don't seem to come and get us that easily. And those what I report now are actually data from many studies of mantra practice, and there's actually a program for veterans which is widely used, and they found that those veterans, when engaging in mantra practice, had a relief from their post-traumatic stress, they slept better, they were less hyper aroused then, and in general it enhanced their quality of life, their self-efficacy, and also their mindfulness. And they conclude that mechanisms like focus shifting and frame activation and this fostering of mindfulness supports these results. So they find that mantra practice can be helpful managing symptoms of various health conditions like PTSD, HIV or AIDS, cancer, other chronic diseases. And a daily routine of mantra practice can be implemented to manage stress, improve coping, increase a feeling of safety, efficacy, calmness, and resilience. There are also studies on the general population, and there was a review by Lynch et al. And they took 37 studies and looked what they found out. And what they report is that about 90% have a relatively weak quality when it comes to scientific values. That doesn't mean that the results are not true, but they are questionable on a scientific basis. 78% of those studies use the transcendental meditation programs who are using mantra citation. And those results showed that that mantra practice can be helpful for anxiety, stress, depression, burnout, anger, and in general psychological distress. Taking together, they analyzed how strong this effect was, and due to the relatively weak quality of the studies, this beneficial effect can only be categorized as minimal to moderate. However, they say that it's potentially much higher, and just more studies are needed to really support that. And what I also want to add is that those studies are sometimes from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where just the standards of science were different. So they did a good job back then, but now the standards just have changed. So it's hard to, yeah. So kind of starting to sum up here. So vibration can restore physical, mental health and help us grow spiritually. And this is due to different mechanisms. Like I said, the nature has the tendency to go from disharmony to harmony. So if we bring in a harmonic frequency, this harmony will have the tendency to go towards harmony. And then another principle which is on the works is resonance. And an object resonates when it starts vibrating at the same frequency as another signal. So when we use mantras, when we use Om, for example, then this vibration will permeate our whole being, and our whole being, if there is anything in dissonance, has the opportunity to go in resonance with it. And those healing frequencies are all inherent in us, so we have the ability to resonate with them. There's also been studies on the quality of emotion, and most of you may know that Dr. Masaru Emoto, what he did, that's a while ago, he used water and then put the frequency of thank you, love and gratitude and so on it, and then froze the water and looked at the crystals. And so as you can see, the positive intention, attention, vibration, and emotion, which was put on the water with thank you, love and gratitude and harmony, makes these harmonic, beautiful crystals, while something like evil, you fool, you disgust me, is really not such a good thing to use. So that's kind of just on a vibrational level, showing us how important also, for example, self-talk is, like that we are kind and sweet to ourselves as well as of others, of course, but usually we are harder on ourselves, and they say, oh, you're stupid, you did that, and whatever, and we talk like that to us. Well, that's not such a good vibration. So seeing that, I think, is kind of a motivation to really think about what we say and what impact that has on us and on others. So what makes mantra practice even more powerful? So what has an impact on vibration and the use of frequencies in mantra practice is our intention. Really stay on it, stay focused when we do it. Then the devotional aspect, like the intensity in what we do it, like, our emotion, if we are, so that makes the attention even stronger. And then the regularity of practice, the time spent in practice, it's usually suggested to do at least 15 minutes of mantra practice, but I think any amount is good and helpful. And then it's important to really find a mantra that resonates with you, that you feel comfortable with, and that works for you. And next, I would like to speak a little bit about mantras for specific doshas, and also want to do a little meditation with you trying those out. So mantras, as I said, can bring back the body into balance, and also the doshas. And so the doshas are the body types in Ayurveda. And one of them is Vata. Vata are usually, and that's just a rough, simple overview. I'm also not an Ayurvedic practitioner, but just to give you a notion, those are types which are always in motion. Kulrit Chaudhary names Audrey Hepburn as an example. For them, it's very important to create regularity in their daily routine to help them ground their moving energy. So out of balance, those types, they feel unstable, fearful, anxious, nervous. So it's important to introduce mantras which help to calm the hyperactive qualities of this dosha. And one of the mantras is Hreem. And so in Ayurveda, they say that it's helpful for the heart, supports creativity and compassion. And Kleem, which promotes blood flow, digestion, smooth skin, and also helps to calm the brain and boost the reproductive and immune system. So for Vata, beneficial mantras would be Hreem and Kleem. For the Pitta types, which are ambitious, driven, always active, putting their power behind what they're doing, high achievers like Steve Jobs, they have the tendency to get overheated, impatient, impulsive, angry. And to keep that dosha in balance, it's good to cool it physically and emotionally. And cooling mantras are Aim, which opens voice, lungs, and clears the senses, and Shreem boosts overall energy, concentration, and feelings of nurturance. So Aim and Shreem. Last but not least, the Kapha types. They are generous, loving types, and they stay grounded and stable no matter what. And in that sense, Oprah Winfrey is an example for that aspect of Kapha. Out of balance, greed can arise, possessiveness, or they become lethargic. So to keep Kapha in balance, it's important to stay mentally and physically stimulated. So two warm and stimulating mantras are Hum and Doom. And Hum is stimulating the energy throughout the body, and Doom creates protective energy spiritually and physically. So I would like to invite you to a short meditation. I think we have enough time to do about 10 minutes. And so you can choose, you can combine different of these mantras, or you can choose just one. I, for example, I'm Pitta with a little bit of Vata, and my Vata especially often, is in imbalance, so I used those. So what I started with was Om, because Om is a very good start for mantras, and is believed that it also makes the impact of the following stronger. So I used Om, Aim, then I used Hreem for my Vata, and Shreem at the end. Om, Aim, Chrim, Shrim. But, if you're fiery, you just want to, get calmer, you can also just do Aim or Aim, Shrim. Really, you can really try that out. So choose whatever type you are or whatever imbalancing you are suffering from at the moment. If you don't know your Ayurvedic body type, you can later pick up Roy's book about Ayurveda. There is a questionnaire for you in there to find out what you are. And if you don't feel comfortable using those right now, you can simply use Om or Hong So or whatever you feel you would like to have in your life right now. Love is always a good one. So I would like to invite you, and I think I can already come here back to seeing you all. So I'll just increase the window here real quick. All right. Okay, so yeah, so just sit upright in a poised and comfortable way. Close your eyes. And then we want to just acknowledge our guru lineage, Babaji, Lahiri Mahasaya, Sri Yukteswar, Paramahansa Yogananda, and Roy Eugene Davis. We open up to the infinite, to their supportive influences, which is always there. You may want to maybe take a few deep breaths into the belly. Breathe out any tension. Breathe in and breathe out. Let go of any disbalances. And then we can bring up our attention to our forehead or to the higher brain centers. And then I would like to invite you to try out your new mantra practice. And maybe keep in mind how vibration really permeates all creation, all sheaths, from the most subtle to the physical, which we now know is also just vibrating energy. So this is why sound and vibration is so powerful. Now let us come back to the here and now and end our meditation. So just to remind you one more time at the end of this talk, we are vibrational beings and we can restore harmony through application of frequencies, like that's exactly what we do in our mantra practice. And we can literally attune us to the infinite with it. So I hope you enjoy your meditation practice even more and have a wonderful weekend and Saturday. Thank you.